Hey everyone, it's Final. Today we're going to be starting a series called Dirty Diamonds. Why called that? Because it's a play on words for the hidden gem idea, but Dirty Diamonds because, diamond record, vinyl, you get it. But today we're going to be talking about RoboQuest, which is a roguelike that I think is totally underrated, and I don't know how I don't see it everywhere when it's honestly pretty damn good. I recommend it. If you're into roguelikes, even if you're not into roguelikes, I think the game's worth a shot, so let's hop right into it. First off, I'm going to put a disclaimer. This is like endgame gameplay. I'm missing one permanent upgrade. I have everything. So your gameplay, when you start the game, will not look as fluent, clean, or like have as much shit going on as it does for me probably until later in your run. The further you get, the more upgrades you get to make it easier to start higher, basically. I'll explain that. But first, we're going to start with the class system. There's 5 different classes you're able to choose from. First off is the Guardian, which is your starter class, which has Safety, Bubble, and Bash, which are two, they're pretty good moves, actually. I actually learned the Guardian was more fun than I thought he would be. There's Recon, who has a blink move and a laser dagger. There's Engineer, who can spawn in flying drones and has a scrap gun. There's Commando, who has a shotgun arm and as well as a wrist-mounted rocket launcher. And then the final class you unlock, or you may unlock it earlier, is the Ranger, who can throw javelins and can go invisible. Each class also comes with its own passive that fills into the role that it's been already given with its own melee as well as its own ability. When you get into the game, you're also able to pick up perks, and class-specific perks are available. So, for example, with Commando, you can get certain perks to make your rocket launcher, instead of just being a normal rocket launcher, you can make it be a flaming rocket launcher, or you can make it be a shotgun rocket launcher, etc. There's different perks that for different classes, which allows the gameplay to be even more different, even from run to run, throughout just using one class. You're also able to pick up weapons throughout the game, obviously. The weapons range from really stupid guns to really cool guns, or just normal average military weapons. You can get things like the Sheriff's Carbine, you can get things like the Elite Sniper, you can get things like the Bubble Gun, it just shoots bubbles at people. You can get Blast, like futuristic weapons, and I can promise you'll find a weapon that fits your playstyle. There are so many different weapons in this game, and even if you don't like a weapon most times you pick it up, the amount of affixes and different things you can get changes the gun to the point where it feels all new. You can also randomly get a chance to get secondary fires, such as your assault rifle can have an added shotgun blast if you right click instead of left click, or your sniper rifle can sometimes get it. Everything can have different things. Some weapons have scopes, some weapons have shotgun blasts, some weapons shoot rays that mark things, some weapons shoot explosive rays. It changes the game drastically. One of my personal favorite perks that you can get on a class is the Laser Cutlass on Recon. Recon usually starts with a laser dagger that can stab people. If you get the Laser Cutlass, it gets bigger, and as you upgrade the Laser Cutlass, it can give more perks and more bonuses as you use it. On top of that, another really cool one is you get it with the Guardian. Guardian can get a perk that it's called Fusion Bubble, I'm pretty sure, and it can give you, as you upgrade the perks slowly but surely, it can give you infinite ammo while inside your bubble. It can make it so when you kill things, your bubble recharges. It gives you increased fire. It gives you increased fire rate, running speed, firing speed, reload speed. It gives just buffs while using the bubble, which is a pretty intrinsic part of using that class. Something I find particularly special about this game is the boss fights. There are so many fucking different bosses in this game. While I was recording footage, I honestly never ended up beating the game. I'm not the greatest at the game. I do have a lot of fun with it though, but I never ended up actually beating the game. But even then, all the boss fights are so different. You can fight El Mosquito, which is a mosquito boss. You can fight Dr. Turret, who's a boss that stays stationary, and you have to run around him and play around the things that he can pull off around you. There's Billy Boom, who has a gimmick where throughout the fight, eventually he will crouch down, and if you try to destroy him while he's crouched down like that, he'll explode, killing you both. And then there's also one other one, I forget what it was called, but then you get things like Sir Catercoaster, And that one is an entirely gimmick boss. It runs around on a rail, the floor drops from underneath you, so you need to go on rails and platforms to keep shooting it while it runs around and tries to attack you. The boss fights are all their own gimmicks, which actually make them interesting. These are really well done boss fights. In their own right, they remind me of Souls, like Souls games like Elden Ring, because of the fact that they're all so unique in their own different light. Of course, it plays nothing like a Souls-like, but unlike most games, like for example, even Halo Infinite, the boss fights never feel that different. Between the two boss fights, what was I thinking about? The guy with the Elite Bloodblade and also the main villain with the Gravity Hammer, they both feel relatively similar except for the one gimmick that the Gravity Hammer boss had. They were never that special. This game gives you special bosses each and every time, which I truly do appreciate. I do love boss fights, and this is a game that I feel like does boss fights right. Of course, like many roguelikes, I think most roguelikes, there are permanent upgrades you can get. These permanent upgrades you can purchase with the currency known as wrenches. Wrenches you get after every run, or every stage. So every stage you have an XP meter and a time meter. In order to get the best benefits, you need to move your ass and you need to kill as much things as possible. Getting an S in both will give you bonuses at the end, giving you extra wrenches as well as extra power cells, which are for temporary in-game, like, run-based upgrades for your character, so you can buy extra perks, extra items, or sorry, not extra perks, but you can get extra items, you can upgrade your weapons, you can re-roll their affixes, you can also buy weapons at the shops. The items can range from completely useless to super overpowered. Legendary items, like there's one that's called a fighter jet, I think, and every 2.5 seconds your weapon will also shoot an explosive missile, which is a very helpful perk. It just adds extra damage, which who doesn't want extra damage? Something else that's pretty cool about this game is once you get further into your run, they stop making you do the same thing. So once you get to Haven City for the first time, instead of going through the map and getting to a door, you have to eliminate 4 bosses that are around the map, and once you kill those 4, you can head towards the locked door and leave, which is an interesting way to do it. And then the next level right after that, instead you have to go to 2 hidden areas that are like, you find them in every level, they're the little purple corrupted areas. And once you go in, you get your loot, and you leave, that area checks off, and you need to go to the next one, and once you do that one, that area checks off. Something cool about the hidden areas is the fact that, obviously, you go in, and they each present you a different challenge. Some spawn in enemies, some give you parkour to do, so they don't get old that fast. You do see the same ones, but they are different, which I think is really cool. I think it's something they never had to do, but they did it, so why not? Another really cool aspect is once you get through most of the first map, the little desert area, you get a choice between 3 paths. I think you have to unlock them, if I'm not mistaken, but you get a choice between 3 paths eventually. You can either go to the ruins, you can go to the oasis, or you can go to the quarry. Each present their own separate loot area that gives you something different and also acts differently. For example, when you go into the oasis, you have to walk through a waterfall, and when you walk through the waterfall, you'll get an extra little loot area that gives you an upgrade and all that fun stuff. In ruins, you just open a door. It's extremely simple. You just have to find the area. And in quarry, you have to remember a code that you see at the start, and then once you find that room, you input the code, the door will unlock permanently, and then you can go through and get the loot that's in there. I think that's really fun. You also get stop rooms in the middle where you go through and you end up just having all the upgrades that you would find at the start. So you can get the chef, which upgrades your weapons. You can buy weapons. You can do that. It's really cool. You also do need to get permanent upgrades for them to show up all the time. Do not forget that. It does end up changing the game pretty drastically. Throughout your run, you'll also definitely encounter one of the more interesting things, which is the arena rooms. They play similarly to Doom. Enemies just keep spawning and you just keep murdering until the health bar at the top ends up depleting, and then it lets you free from the room. It's a good way to get item drops throughout the game. It's just so fun. You guys should seriously try the game. It's so good. Next up, I want to talk about the gadget system. You unlock these through the wrench, like, permanent upgrade system. Some of these can range from absolute dog shit to absolute fire. So you get things like the rocket pants, which it turns your double jump into a triple jump. You can get the jetpack, which allows you to fly, but those take up 2 slots, so they're a lot more taxing. Then you can get cool stuff. For me, one of my favorite is the fanny pack, which allows you to hold 3 items, like 3 weapons instead of 2. For me, I like that. It allows me to have more fluidity throughout my loadout and carry whatever weapons I feel like carrying. Even though sometimes I still feel like, oh, I don't want to lose this, but I want this, and you have to decide between the weapons you want. You can play through the different difficulties if you choose. I personally just play on standard, so all the gameplay you'll be seeing is on standard. I do have a lot of fun with this game. I think the gameplay in general is really fun. You get to jump around. There's things like head bonking, where you can just step on people's heads and that ends up injuring them, which isn't something in like every game, but it's cool. Another thing is the enemy types. They change. Like, there's a lot of enemy types in this game, and sometimes they'll make new enemy types by simply combining enemies. You'll find these small drones that you'll fight throughout, and then you'll find other things that are like stations that will try to stun you or whatever. Things can mix together, so those small drones will end up having the ability to stun you if they so choose. That actually brings me to another thing. Not every enemy is just trying to deal damage. A lot of enemies just provide debuffs. For example, burning is a debuff that can be put on you, which will, instead of just killing you straight out, it will burn your scratch damage, which now I'm going to get into scratch damage, even though I was going to do that earlier or later. I honestly don't remember. But scratch damage, how it works, is when you originally take damage, your health will lower and you'll have a like white faded bar. You can fill that a lot easier by killing enemies and getting the healing cells they drop, versus the like 1 health you'll gain every time you don't have scratch damage. It takes a lot longer when you don't have scratch damage, which you don't want damage at all, obviously, but scratch damage is easier to heal up. So instead of burn just dealing damage to your overall health bar, if you have scratch damage, it will start to burn through that scratch damage, which I think is a really good way to do burn. There's enemies that will straight up just shock you, which provides you with a little mini game where you have to hit the same key 3 times. That's really cool. There's enemies that will chain you to them, so you're kind of locked. You don't have as much mobility, which is a really neat mechanic. There's enemies that will like flashbang you and blind you, so you can see less. Your vision is gray. Your cone of vision is reduced. It's cool that there's not just, oh, I deal damage. There's enemies that actually debuff you instead. Some deal straight up no damage to you, and all they do is debuff, and I think that's a really interesting way to do the game, instead of making it some stupid garbage where it's just every enemy is the same thing. They just look a little different, and some fly and some walk. So I think the debuffs make the game really, really fun. I know there's absolutely like no order to the way I talk about these things, and I kind of just talk and just show gameplay footage, but it's hard to put my finger on things. To finish this up, I'm going to talk about a few last things. I've been with this game for a while. The game actually got a super huge revamp. Weapons used to be divided into 4 classes themselves. You used to have Assault, Tech, Demolition, and Precision. Precision weapons would be things like your throwing knives, your sniper rifles. Demolition would be your grenade launchers, your flamethrowers. Tech would obviously be the more techie weapons, the blast guns. That's usually what they fit into. And then assault would be things like the sawed-offs, the shotguns, all those usual things you would find. You could sometimes get mixes, and also only some weapons had alt fires. Not every weapon had the chance for an alt fire. It was very specific guns that got alt fires. For example, there's a weapon called the scratch rifle, which has an alt fire that shoots a shotgun. That shoots a grenade launcher. We're not going to talk about that mistake, but it shoots an underbarrel grenade launcher, which was specific to that gun. You couldn't get that anywhere else, which is something I found really neat. Onto a recommendation for the developer. Just keep making funny-ass weapons, and if you can, make another class. Also, the boss variety is great, but there's always room for more. I love what they've been doing. I really don't have too many complaints about the game. There's not that many bugs. The game is so fun. There's secrets. There's so much to do. The fact that this game is so slept on, it is such a sleeper hit that people need to try. It is up there for roguelikes. My personal favorite roguelike is Risk of Rain 2. Nothing will ever beat that, for me personally, at least as of right now. But this is another one. This is like right below it for me. This game is so good. It is absolutely fun. The graphical style is neat. It's cute. It's beautiful. I love this game so much. Onto some personal opinions with the game. Not like, oh, this game's good, but like personal opinions of my favorite things to use in the game. My personal favorite weapon of all time is the Elite Sniper. It does a lot of damage. It has good good magazine size, and it's just really fun to shoot. Like, quick scoping all these robots, always hitting critical hits is absolutely a phenomenal feeling. if you get the chance to try it out, you should totally try it out. If you get the game, totally try out the Elite Sniper. And even if precision weapons are not your type, that's entirely fair. You don't have to use the Elite Sniper, but I think it's pretty good. My favorite reload animation has to go to the mortar. I love the mortars. You just dump coals into it and then it shoots more. I think that's really cool. I think it's neat. I think it's a cute little idea for a weapon. My personal favorite class has to be between two. I really, really like Recon. Recon made me feel like Toji in the last episode of Jujutsu Kaisen that came out, teleporting around, slashing people, getting the Mega Slash, upgrading yourself to be even better. It is such a fun class. Or the Ranger, because the Ranger helps me practice my use of projectiles, or projectile weapons also help me practice the use of the Ranger. Going stealth, making your decoys that when you go stealth start shooting, or making it so when you go into stealth all of your javelins explode, increasing your quiver size, just chucking like 20 javelins around the map like a setup, and then going into cloak mode and blowing up everything in the radius. That is awesome. It is such an awesome feeling. My favorite perk of all time, that's not like class specific. I might be class specific, but I don't think it is. I forget the exact name for it, but oh my god, it was so fun. It had to do with the number 4. And every time you got to the 4th like shot, it would do increased damage. Eventually I got it, so every time I hit that extra shot, it was guaranteed to be a critical shot. So using something like the sniper just made it an absolute monster of a weapon. It would just deal so much damage every bullet I shot. Eventually I got it, so instead of every 4 shots, it was every 3 shots, and it just became better and better and better. It kept stacking and getting scarier of a weapon. It is so fun. But to finish off this video, I would like to thank you so much for watching. I know this was kind of more of a ramble style of a review, but I think that's what this series is kind of going to be, is me rambling and just being insane about these games to make it seem like, holy, there's a lot to say. But I really hope you did enjoy watching me rant about this roguelike that's totally great, people just totally sleep on. If you see this video, I absolutely recommend going to the Steam store and buying it. It's not a bad price, it's pretty fun, it's worth the money. I've got a solid 40 hours on the game right now, and that number is going to keep going up. Thank you so much for watching. This is going to be the last time I say that. I really do appreciate it, and have a good one.